Okay, let's begin with the lecture today. Uh, in yesterday's lecture we were discussing some problems in production function. Let us continue that further. So, in case you have any problem or anything, just unmute and let me know. Let's hope that we can cover this topic today, and so that next lecture we can start with a new topic. Okay. So, okay, look at problem number 45. Okay, problem number 45 in your module, that is, if you look, it asks a question: what are the functions of a market? What are the functions of a market? What are the functions of a market? Can you just have a look at the options given? A is to determine the price of good, B determine quantity of good, C both, and D none of this. So I would be very happy if you text me the answer. Put it in the chat. What do you think is the answer for this? What are the functions of a market? To determine price of the goods, yes it is. To determine quantity of the good, yes. So what would be the correct option? Yeah. So in this case the correct option would be both. Okay. That is, it determines both price and the quantity in the market. Both get determined. Okay, let's look at 46. Okay, according to law of demand, demand varies dash with price. Okay, what is your answer? Law of demand. Quantity demanded varies dash with price. What would you look at? Yeah, directly, indirectly, proportionately, inversely. What would you choose? A, B, C or D? Any answers? Online students, can you give me the answer? What could be the choice? The law of demand. According to the law of demand, demand varies dash with price. Directly, indirectly, proportionately, inversely. What would you think is the most correct answer? See, definitely directly is the wrong answer. Indirectly, I mean, we don't know exactly what is the meaning. Proportionately, demand may not change proportionately with price. So I think the best option here for us would be to choose. Law of demand states that quantity demanded varies inversely with price. Are you there? Have you got this? 46. Can I proceed? Hello. Okay, let's look at the next problem. In case of inferior goods, the consumer, okay, here you have to just recall what is the inferior good. In case of inferior good, what happens in case of inferior good? Purchases less with increase in income, that is your income increases, quantity demanded falls. Okay, that is the first option. B is price increases, quantity demanded decreases. C is purchases more with increase in income, quantity demanded goes up. And finally D, purchases more with decrease in price. Price falls and quantity demanded increases. So this is a very important problem, and all that you need to do to solve this problem is you need to know what is the inferior good. The definition of inferior good states that as income increases, the quantity demanded will decrease. So if you look at this problem 47, which is the option that you will select? What would be, can you text me the answer in the chat? What would be the option that you would select? Okay, in case of 47, the correct option would be this. Okay, this is actually just recalling the definition of what is the inferior good, that as your income increases, the quantity demanded will decrease. Okay, let us look at problem number 48. Okay, problem number 48. When price of a complementary good falls, price of a complementary good falls, the demand for the other product will rise. Demand for other product will increase. Okay. So we can think of complementary products like, say, sugar and tea. Okay, think of demand for tea and price of sugar. Okay, so this is the other good. If the price of sugar were to decrease, what would happen to the demand for tea? Is this statement correct? Price of the complementary good falls? Yes, absolutely correct. This is a little tricky one, but you got it right. That, let me check what are the options that they are given. When the price of complementary product falls, the demand for the other product will fall? No. A is wrong. B is increase. Yes, increase. And remain stable? No. Drop by 25% is also not a correct option. Let's look at 49. Okay, 49 states the supply curve always, okay, when you read this problem, think of the graph, okay. So the supply curve, what is the, these are the two famous diagrams. One is what could be a demand curve, one could be a supply curve. Which one would be a supply curve, A or B here? Which of the two would be a supply curve, A or B? You know that as price increases, the quantity supplied will increase. So definitely A would be the supply curve. Now read the problem. When the supply curve always slopes, A, the option is upwards, B, it's saying downwards, C is both A and B, A and B, and D is neither A nor B. Okay. Yeah, this is a very easy one. I want you to write me the answer so that I don't write it. What would be the correct option here? Yes, absolutely correct. That's right. So that is the right option. Okay. So fine, let's go to the next problem. Yeah. Okay, so we have seen 49, let's look at 50. 50 dash refers to a quantity of commodity which a firm is willing to produce and offer for sale. Okay, please write this down. Refers to the quantity dash refers to the quantity firm is willing to produce, firm is willing to produce and offer for sale. What is that one word you will write here? Offer for sale. 50, it's refers to the quantity of commodity the firm is willing to sell. Okay, so the A is individual supply, B is market supply. Okay, let's think over these two separately. C is demand, individual demand and market demand. Okay, so definitely this has nothing to do with demand. So are these two options go off? Now the question is whether it is an individual supply or a market supply curve. What is the option that you would choose? Yeah, what's the option that you would choose? The answer I would say is 50 is A. It is the individual supply. Okay. Why it's an individual supply? Because we are talking about a firm. Firm is a single unit. Okay. That is why it would be an individual supply. Is the logic clear? Why it's not market supply? Market supply would have to think, you would have to talk about industry. Equilibrium means, okay, Yeah, very important, right? Equilibrium means change position, okay. B is unchanged position, okay, unchanged position. Equality in society, equality in society. And D is all of the above. Okay, different contexts you can have different definitions of what is equilibrium. Okay, so a shift from one position to another could also be an equilibrium. Stationarity can also be an equilibrium. Equality in a society could also be an equilibrium. I may choose D here, though technically there could be different definitions of what is an equilibrium. Given these options, I would go with all of the above. Okay. Equilibrium price is determined when? Okay. Equilibrium price is determined when? Now, mentally, this is what you should be visualizing. This is the diagram that will give you the answer. Okay, we know that intersection point of the demand and supply curve gives us the equilibrium. So let me read the question, but this is what you should come to your mind. Equilibrium price is determined when demand is greater than supply, demand is less than supply, demand is equal to supply, and D is none of the above. Okay, I want you to text me and tell me what would be the right answer for 52. What do you think is the right answer for this particular question? Demand is greater than supply, demand is less than supply, demand is equal to supply, or none. Which one would you select? Okay, this is the equilibrium point where the demand curve is intersecting the supply curve. What would be our answer be? Our answer will be demand is equal to supply. Is that fine? So the correct answer would have been C. 52. Correct answer would be C here. Okay. Let's look at 53. If demand is more than supply, then the price will. Demand is more than supply at the price. What will happen to the market price? Then price will. What is the answer for this? Okay, it's a situation like this. If price is somewhere here, if demand is more than supply, there is a shortage in the market. Whenever there is a shortage in the market, price will increase. Did you get this? So 53, the best option would have been B. Is that fine? Can I proceed? Okay, 54. Let's try to look at 54. If the supply is more than demand, okay, supply is more than demand, then price will increase, decrease, increase, constant, none. What would be the best option? In this case, price, what would be the best option? Supply is more than demand. So this is kind of a situation of surplus. Very good. I'm absolutely correct. Price will decrease. So you are getting the visual images in your mind about demand and supply. That's perfect. Very good. 55 is more increase in supply and less increase in demand. Okay, more increase in supply. So let me say supply has increased by 100 units. See, this is how you should try to interpret it. Create a small example. Supply, when you just read this, more increase in supply and less increase in demand. It's very abstract statement and it's not easy for us to make sense of it. So you put numbers to it. So if supply has gone up by 100 units and increase in demand, okay, increase in demand is less increase in demand. So if supply has gone up by 100 units, demand has to go up but by less than 100 units. Okay, so maybe I will write say 80 units. Now if demand goes up by 80 units and supply has gone up by 100 units, what will happen to the price? Can you get me the estimate? Yes. Okay. So when supply is more than demand, what would be the answer that you would choose? More increase in supply and less increase in demand leads to, okay, it is leads to the prediction you have to make is about price. Which way will the price move? Will it go up? Will it go down? Or will it remain constant? What would you choose? Supply has gone up by 100 units and demand is up only by 80 units. What would happen to the relative price? What would you select in this case? Any guess? You see that? Yes, absolutely right. Your thinking is absolutely correct. Why? Because relative supply has increased. Relative supply has increased. You know, by how much? On a net basis, 100 units minus 80 if you do. Supply on a net basis has gone up by 20 units. This will tend to push the price downward. Okay, this would tend to have a, because more supply always gets you down to a lower price. Perfect. Your economic reasoning is absolutely correct. Let us solve one more problem. 56. Okay. When marginal product is equal to average product, then average product is okay, this is a technical question and I will draw a diagram. This is a mathematical relationship between average and margin. So, marginal product behaves like this. Okay. Initially it is rising, then it reaches a point of maximum, and then it starts falling. Now, average product initially is, this is something which will always be true mathematically. So we are not deriving that because we are not doing mathematical economics. But remember this, it will start going up just the same way as marginal product is increasing, but then it will cut somewhere to the right of this point, where MP is at maximum, and beyond this, average product will fall. So this point is the maximum for AP. Okay, this is something which you have to just visualize. Maybe later on, if you have time, I'll write the proof for this. Okay, so when marginal product is equal to average product, that is this point, MP is equal to AP. Have you got the point where MP and AP are equal? Then AP is at its, what will be the AP? It will be at its maximum. Okay, so our answer here would have been 56A. Have you got this? Okay, we'll do a couple of more problems, then I will give you a small break, and then we will continue with the problem sets. Okay, let's do 3 more problems, and then I will give you a 5-minute break. Okay, 57. Are you fine right now? You are able to concentrate? Okay, 57 is explicit cost. Yeah, okay, great, very good. Thank you so much for your participation. Explicit cost. Okay, this is a very important term, and you need to write down the definition for this refers to. Generally, remember, explicit cost means everything where there is a money outlay, when money immediately flows out of your pockets. Okay, so for example, if you go from Pimpri to Pune and you buy bus tickets of 25 rupees, then the explicit cost would be 25 rupees that you are paying for the bus ticket. Okay, is that so? Explicit cost refers to all anticipated future cost. Okay, opportunity cost of the next best alternative foregone. Both don't look, A and B both don't look correct, don't match with the idea of what is the explicit cost. Actual expenses to purchase or hire inputs. Okay, so I think C would be my choice. Okay, explicit cost is actual expenses. Actual expenses. Expenses to purchase or hire input. Purchase or hire inputs. Are you fine with this? Can we move? 57. Let me just do 2 more and then I'll give you a break. 58 is, which of these is an example of, just a minute now, there is a problem with the display. Okay, Satya, just take a 5-minute break. Okay, and I will I'll exactly start the lecture in 5 minutes. Are you able to hear this? Yeah, there's some problem in display. I'll just get that checked out and then we will start the session again. Thank you. 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes. Hello. Hello. Can we start? So there's a, yeah. Okay, good. Thanks. Okay. So we have discussed quite a lot of problems, and we'll just continue this. Next week or the next lecture, whenever we start, I'm starting with a new chapter. Okay. But let's continue with what we did. 58. Which of the following is an example of explicit cost? Okay. Now remember, explicit cost means you think like a cash box or a money flow, or you think about this as your wallet. For all things where you have to actually pay money, means rupees are flowing out of your pocket, this would constitute explicit cost. So now think like this. Which of the following are cost of raw material? Okay, raw material. 2. Notional rent on office building. Okay, notional rent, office building. Okay, tell me one thing. If we apply this logic, explicit cost is a cost which involves some money outflow. Raw material purchase करने के लिए हमें पैसा देना पड़ेगा, right? We'll have to actually pay money. So this is going to be an example of explicit cost. But अभी दूसरा जो ये है notional rent. Notional rent is a conceptual amount. It is not an actual thing that is flowing out. Rent on office building. So, because it is the idea is a notional, okay, it's conceptual. This will not involve a explicit cost. Okay. So, one is but not two. C, third one. Okay, let's look. Third example, interest on capital employed. Interest on capital employed by entrepreneur. Entrepreneur. Okay. So interest on capital employed by the entrepreneur, again, typically it is not a borrowing kind of a relationship. So this will also not constitute a explicit cost. Okay. So only one is the explicit cost, and 2 and 3, please write them down. 2 and 3 are good examples of implicit cost. These are 2 good examples of implicit cost. Let's look at 59. Which of the given list, okay, I think there's some spelling mistake here. Which of the following is an example of implicit cost? Example of implicit cost. Okay, write down the meaning of implicit cost. A cost, it is a cost, okay, cost, but does not have money outflow. Okay, इसकी एग्जाम्पल देखो, अगर नोशनल रेंट, अगर ओनर की खुद की प्रॉपर्टी है और ये प्रॉपर्टी में वो बिजनेस चला रहा है, तो वो रेंट उसके लिए एक implicit cost है. It doesn't actually involve him paying money to anyone. Okay, so that is the idea of implicit cost. It is a cost but does not involve a money outflow. So let us have a look at what are the options available with us. Labor wages. देखो, अगर आपको वर्कर्स को पेमेंट नहीं दोगे तो कोई काम नहीं करने वाला. So labor wages is an example of explicit cost, not implicit cost. Okay. B, cartage on goods purchased. Cartage means you are paying for transport on goods purchased. Again, this is something where unless you make a payment, nobody is going to deliver the goods to you. So it has to be an explicit payment. Okay, let's have C. Rent on owned factory building. Rent on owned factory building. अगर ये खुद की factory building है, देखो. Okay, owned. That is the word here. So this could be the answer, but let's just look at the next option before we decide. Lease charges on plant. Lease means you're not buying something, but you're taking it from another party for goods or machines. Lease on plant. So plant and equipment has been taken on lease. So you have to pay lease rent. तो ये explicit payment हुआ. तो इसमें से एक ही चीज बैठती है जो implicit payment है. That is rent on owned factory building. के अगर ये own word नहीं रहता था इधर तो ये भी explicit होता था. Okay, did you get the logic? Is the logic clear? So our answer here would have been C. Are you getting this? Can I proceed? Okay, these are important examples with ideas about what are the explicit and implicit costs. Okay, so ensure that you get it. Okay, which of these costs will increase or decrease with production? He's asked which costs will increase or decrease with production. Okay, that means if you increase production, the cost will also go up. If product means quantity of output goes up, this cost will increase. Okay, if output goes down, the cost will decrease. Are you getting this? So the question is really asking you what are the variable costs. Which of these costs are variable? Okay, so option A is variable cost of production. Okay, that I think will be your answer. Cost of production, but let's look at the other options and rule out them. Okay, fixed cost of production. Okay, fixed cost of production is not a cost which will vary. Okay, it is not going to vary with output, so it cannot increase or decrease. Let's look at C. Both. No, definitely B is not involved, so C also cannot work. And D is average cost of production. Average cost of production also can work. This can work, but more appropriate would be A. That is why I would choose variable cost of production. Okay, so 60 would be A. Is that fine? All? Would you all agree with the logic? Anybody is disagreeing? Different viewpoint? Okay, let's look at another problem. Problem number 60. Okay, labor supply curve. Okay, fine. Just there's one thing you have to understand. Imagine like an individual. Okay, or imagine like wage rate, and we are thinking about labor supply. Okay, so you know what happens is that as you get more wage, you are willing to work more. You will increase the number of hours of work. But suppose if it has been observed that if people become very rich, that is their earnings increases beyond a point, with increase in wage, you know, they will decrease their effort. So this labor supply curve, instead of keeping on going up, it will turn inwards. Okay, and this phenomenon is called backward bending. Backward bending labor supply curve. Okay, it has this feature that it starts bending backwards. Okay, so this is a theory which you have to remember. The reason for this is that as people become rich, wage rate goes up, they want more leisure also. Okay, so they substitute for work with leisure. Okay, so labor supply A is upward sloping, B is downward sloping, C is backward sloping, and D is a straight line. So the best option here is C, you know, that it is backward sloping. Okay, this is a very commonly used word, backward sloping, so or backward bending. So ensure that you know this term, and it happens only for human beings. Okay, is the logic clear? For any other material input, as the wage rate reward goes up, the supply will increase. So that's why we have a upward sloping supply curve. Okay, price and quantity. But only for human beings, as their wage rate goes up beyond a point, instead of working more hours, people work less hours. And this has been observed in the developed countries, that with increasing wage rates, the labor force participation rates have decreased. Okay, so let us have a look at problem number 62. Okay, problem number 62. Okay, 62. Which of the cost curve shapes a rectangular hyperbola? Okay. Okay, rectangular hyperbola is something like this. Okay, it has a shape like this. Okay, and this shape is called a rectangular hyperbola. Okay, now it has this particular type of a equation, like what happens for our AFC. We have this equation that total fixed cost divided by Q. Okay, and this is our AFC. Okay, so this TFC remains fixed. Okay, so if you say that AFC is equal to some fixed cost, let me write this as TC is fixed, total fixed cost, TF and Q. So this is fixed. So this curve AFC into Q is equal to some constant. This curve satisfies mathematically an equation, and it is called a rectangular hyperbola. So you need to just know this, otherwise you will not be able to attempt this problem. So for 62, the answer would be AFC. Okay, average fixed cost is a rectangular hyperbola. That is because of this nature. And remember, another rectangular hyperbola you get is a unit elastic demand curve. Two things you have to just remember. That is also a rectangular hyperbola. Okay, so just keep this in mind. Whenever you read rectangular hyperbola, you could get two kinds of technical curves in your syllabus. One is AFC, and other is a demand curve, which is a unit elasticity. Okay, price elasticity of demand is equal to 1. Is that fine? Just a few more problems are left, and I think we'll be able to finish this in the next 5 minutes, and that will complete our chapter number 1. Okay, 63. Which cost declines continuously? Okay, just now I drew a cost curve. Okay, it declines continuously. So our option here would be AFC. But before I discuss this, which cost declines continuously, if you draw ABC, ABC is like this, it's U-shaped. So it's not continuously decreasing, it is increasing and decreasing. Same thing with marginal cost. Marginal cost will in fact go like this. This marginal cost. It cuts ABC at its minimum. And TFC is simply a fixed line. TFC is something like this. So our answer would be AFC, 63 would be D, average fixed cost. Okay, 64, the sum of explicit and implicit cost is termed as, okay, explicit cost plus implicit cost. There is no agreement on exactly what it should be called. Some textbooks write it as opportunity cost, but here the most appropriate choice would be accounting cost, historical cost, economic cost and real cost. Okay, let me tell you, it is not accounting cost, because accounting conventions generally don't allow you to write implicit cost, because you have to write only what you incur, except depreciation. Okay, but we'll not get into that. So A is accounting cost is definitely not correct. B is historical cost. Historical means what is actually incurred cost. Okay, that is derived from accounting cost. Accounting costs are historical costs, but implicit cost is definitely not historical. So A and B get cut down. Now C and D are really difficult to decide between. Economic cost and D is real cost. Okay. Now real cost also sounds correct, but I would select C, economic cost, because generally this explicit plus implicit cost is based on economic reasoning. It is based on economic reasoning. So you may want to call this as economic cost and not real cost, because there is I'm not sure what exactly is a real cost, though it looks like real means actually the true cost. It could be maybe explicit plus implicit, somebody may argue, is also real cost. So it's not an easy one to answer, but my choice would be C. Have you got this? Okay, let's look at 65. Yeah, I hope I can proceed. Is the logic clear for 64? Okay, let's look at 65. TV crisis with increasing rate when the law of dash is in operation. Oh, there's a printing error here, so let's not bother about it. 66. Okay. The average total cost and average variable cost corresponding to production of 30 units. Okay. Units is 30. Okay. The average total cost, average variable cost is rupees 30 and rupees 27 respectively. Okay, so this is what has been given. Quantity is 30, ATC is 30 and AVC is 27. The TFC, total fixed cost for the firm, will be, okay, we know the average total cost, we know the average variable cost. Okay, there are two ways in which you could solve this. Try to solve it. I mean, I'll give you a minute or two to solve, then I will try to discuss my method of solving. Q is 30, ATC is 30 and ABC is 27. So the question is, what is total fixed cost? So try to calculate and check your reasoning. Okay. See, there are multiple ways to solve it. One thing is you can do is, you know that ATC is into this, okay, will give you total cost. Total cost will be equal to Q into ATC, okay. And in the same way, TVC will be equal to Q into AVC. Barabar? Now we know that TC minus TVC is TFC. Total cost is made up of two things, TVC plus TFC. So if I subtract from TVC, I will get TFC. So if this is 1 and this is 2, and what I'm saying is that 1 minus 2, that is equal to 3, which I will say is TFC. So now this TFC, if I'm writing like this, is Q into ATC minus AVC. Now just substitute the values that we have. We have Q is equal to 30, okay, ATC is also 30, AVC is 27, so 30 minus 27 is 3, so 30 into 3 is equal to 90. Did you all get this? Okay, so the answer here would have been 90. That is okay, very good. Thank you so much for being there. Okay, there are some true or false questions and fill in the blank questions. I will keep it for you to do that as homework, or wherever we get time we'll get back to this. So next lecture, let us begin with chapter number 2 on pricing and market structures. Maybe we'll take a couple of lectures to finish this. And once we finish chapter number 2 in a major way, we would have finished microeconomics. Okay. So yeah, thank you very much. And I'm closing the stream right now. Hope you have followed what I have taught, and please join again in the next lecture. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah, any doubts or difficulties you are having, that you can ask, otherwise I will just go on.